I'd like to call to order this secret conclave of America's media empires. We're here to come up with the next phony baloney crisis to put Americans back where they belong, in dark rooms glued to their televisions, too terrified to skip the commercials.
Well, I think...
NBC, you are here to listen and not speak. I think we should go with a good old-fashioned public health scare.
A new disease. No one's immune. It's like the summer of the shark, except instead of a shark, it's an epidemic. And instead of summer, it's all the time.
That is so...
Now, I hate to be the guy who derails what everybody else loves.
He loves being that guy.
But, Janice, we do have standards. This can't be a made-up disease. The only moral thing to do is release a deadly virus into the general public.
We do have something we've been holding on to, but it hasn't been tested. Get over here, NBC.
Well, we certainly believe in testing, but Wow.
Oh, yeah.
So, we've got our deadly disease. Now, we just have to blame it on something that's in every household, something that people are a little bit afraid of already. House cat flu is coming, people. The Center for Disease Disinformation predicts with some degree of probability that the house cat flu might spread in the following hypothetical outbreak pattern. So petter beware, that warm body on your lap just might be ready to destroy your tender vessel.
This will be probably the toughest week between this week and next week. And there'll be a lot of death, unfortunately. But a lot.
This is going to be the hardest and the saddest week of most Americans' lives.
On day one, there were 2 people, and then 4, and then 16. In 3 months, it's 1 billion. That's where we're headed.
Together we are tackling this disease, and I want to reassure you that if we remain united and resolute, then we will overcome it.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of The Soul Trap. We trust that wherever and whenever this broadcast finds you, it finds you in good health, good spirits, and now more than ever, most importantly, on that good and narrow way. Today, you and I are going to have a sane, rational conversation about an insane, irrational world in which we are living. Today we're talking about the conspiracy of Corona.
Introduce a little anarchy. Upset the established order. Everything becomes chaos.
Well, I think it is safe to say now, I don't think we're overstating the case, that the reality of the matter is that what we're seeing unfold before our eyes, and what we have seen unfold before our eyes, is absolutely an intentional, conscious use of a situation, a crisis, we'll say. We're not even going to debate whether or not the crisis is as valid as they're saying that it is. We're simply going to say that what we're seeing with the COVID-19 is intentionally being used to reshape the United States of America, and I would dare say reshape the world, and to prepare it for true globalization, to prepare it for the true oncoming of the New World Order, to prepare it, ladies and gentlemen, for what we have been saying for a long time, and that is the man of sin to take full control. You see, the reality is there is no way to look at what is going on and to say that, given all the facts, given all the data that we have, the response of the United States of America, and I include Donald Trump in that, the response of the United States of America makes sense. It does not make sense. And at some point, we have to stop tiptoeing through the lilies. At some point, we have to stop giving the benefit of the doubt and say, what we are seeing unfold is exactly what it looks like. If it walks like a duck and smells like a duck and quacks like a duck, chances are it's a duck. And what we are seeing walks like global tyranny, looks like global tyranny, quacks like global tyranny, is taking our power away from our individual sovereign rights given to us by God and supposedly supposed to be defended by our Constitution. Yeah, it looks like it, smells like it, feels like it. Chances are you and I are living in one of the greatest power grabs, at least in American history, when it comes to global tyranny. Because the fact of the matter is, when you look at the fear, when you look at the data, when you look at our government, when you look at our governors, when you look at our local officials, nothing in the way that we are handling this makes sense. I think it is fair to say that the President of the United States, certainly our representatives, let's start there. I think it is fair to say that that corporate body of senators and congressmen, they aren't running anything except for a few brothels and escort services. That's about the only thing that they seem good at running today. Maybe sex rings and God knows what else we've discussed on the podcast. But they certainly are not running our country. They certainly are not making decisions that have the best interest of our nation at heart. I'm not even going to judge their intention. Maybe they are intending to, but if they are, their incompetence is galactically larger than anyone could have ever imagined. The fact of the matter is, our representatives are not representing us. They are representing Dr. Fauci, Dr. Birx. They are representing an academia, an oligarchy of academia, an oligarchy of bureaucracy. Our president is not representing us. Our vice president, who happens to be a Catholic, none of these people are representing us. Night in and night out, day in and day out, recommendation comes down after recommendation after recommendation after recommendation, and they're all orders, they're all suggestions, they're all recommendations until the police come and tell you there are 11 people standing on the corner, we will arrest you or you will disperse. Then it ceases to feel like recommendations, doesn't it? We are being led by the CDC, and we are being led by authoritarian academia who believe that they have more sense than you do. And as we look around, I think it's very obvious to see something does not add up. For instance, I just pulled up, and let's you don't have to go very far. I just pulled up a few interesting data points that I think are very fascinating. Let me read some of these to you. You can go to www.worldmeters.info. So let's look at a few things. Coronavirus deaths from January 1st to March 25th. As much as we can tell, the data, 21,000 deaths. 21,000 deaths. Now, let's change that. Let's up it. Let's make it 50,000. No, let's make it 75,000. Let's say we have 75,000 deaths from coronavirus. Here are the other stats. The seasonal flu, 113,000. Malaria, 228,000. Suicide, 249,000. Traffic fatalities, almost 314,000 deaths. HIV, AIDS, 391,000 deaths. Alcohol-related deaths, over 500,000, 581,000. Smoking-related deaths, 1.1 million. Cancer deaths, 1.9 million. Deaths attributed to starvation, 2.3 million. And deaths by abortion, 9.9. So, at the very outside, 50, 75,000 corona deaths. Not more than the flu, not more than malaria, not more than suicide, not more than traffic, not more than AIDS, not more than alcohol. You don't see our government, our nation, doing anything about the pandemic of alcohol deaths and violence in the United States of America. Why not? Why not anything about AIDS? Why not anything about smoking? Why is smoking even legal if it's creating that many deaths? What about cancer? What about abortion? Don't you find it sort of hypocritical that you and I are being demanded that we lose our rights for the sake of our safety, and yet this is the same government? And I would be willing to bet you that Dr. Fauci and Dr. Birx, the co-presidents and co-leaders of our kingdom today, which at one time was a democracy, I would be willing to bet you that both of them believe or at least support in a woman's right to have an abortion. And yet, They want you and I to social distance, yea, even from people in our own home. Does that make sense? Does that make any rational sense to you? There are a lot of people out there that are starting to question exactly what's going on. Exactly what data are we using to make these decisions? I mean, there are a lot of places that are hit, but I think it's fair to say, why isn't California lit up like a Christmas tree? Why isn't Los Angeles having bodies in the streets? San Francisco? They have far more Asian flights that come in there. A far larger Asian population. And yet we don't hear a great deal. Why is it simply a few main areas that are hot spots, but if left alone, the rest of the nation would be fine? Does Florida really need to be shut down? Does it? Isn't there a better way to handle a flat tire on your car than setting the entire car on fire and destroying it? And isn't there a better way for us to handle this virus than, in fact, destroying our economy? And what more importantly than the economy, is destroying our liberties? Do you really honestly think that the government is going to go through all of this trouble, all of this bureaucratic method, all of these bureaucratic shenanigans, and simply at the end of June to go, well, I know that we took your fundamental rights. I know that we fundamentally shaped the economy. I know that we fundamentally transformed the world, but now, here, it's back to you. I think people are starting to ask some valid questions. There was a post by a guy, Randy White, and I think it's a great little post, and I wanted to share it with you. He says, I'm a huge Trump supporter, as most of you know. I've also been stubbornly insistent on better answers than we've been getting in this COVID-19 pandemic. Today, the Trump administration said we will have 100,000 to 240,000 dead and millions infected. Now, again, you need to go and look and do your own research. Because, first of all, Dr. Fauci and the Faucian deal that we've made with the devil, pun intended, initially told us it wasn't going to be a big deal. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? He's been around since the Reagan administration. What models are they using? How does he know this? But that's what we're told. And fear ripples through our country. 100,000, 240,000 dead, millions infected. And of course, you can see the picture of Dr. Birx and Dr. Fauci with their graph of how they wanted to flatten the curve and all of that. To stop the virus, the post goes on to say, I will do as the administration asks, but I will not be silent. The graph shows us that there is some kind of model underlying the warnings. Now listen, these are the same people that told us that global warming is real. These are the same people that tell us a woman has a right to abortion. These are the same people that have told us that there's no connection between prescription medication being given to psychotherapeutic patients and the mass shootings and the level of depression and insanity we going on. In other words, the models that they have are models, I believe, designed to reinforce the outcome that they want. They are models designed by an elite academia and an elite oligarchy that want a certain outcome. We saw that with global warming, did we not? We have been told over and over and over that it's settled science. Global warming is settled science. Don't you worry about it. The vast majority of the scientists agree there is a consensus global warming is real. And if you deviate from that, you are laughed at, scoffed at, mocked at. And yet over and over and over, we have seen, quite frankly, conspiracy reports and facts, mind you, of how behind the scenes, through email and through conferences, they have manipulated the data, adjusted the data, shaped the data to suit not the facts on the ground, but to suit the reality that they want. Now, if they would do that with global warming, which they have tried to shape the world through that, is there any doubt that they're doing it this same way? The Post says, the graph shows us that there is some kind of model underlying the warnings. With this kind of death prediction, there is a moral obligation, and I like what Mr. White says. There is a moral obligation to show the data upon which these assumptions, and that's all that they are based. I will not trust Dr. Birx's chart without seeing data. A spreadsheet is an easy thing to share. Let me see your model and how it's been tracking. Show me your assumptions. Let me know where you've been right and where you've missed it. I don't care if you have an MD or a PhD or you're a street sweeper. I'm going to insist on knowing what underlies the chart. You can stand behind a seal that says President of the United States. All that says to me is data is available to me. Whatever the data, show us. It is morally corrupt to show a chart of 240,000 deaths and not even have Y and X axis labels. Now, this is a man who knows what he's talking about right here. Not even having a way to judge what you're looking at. Somebody's mathematical model created this graph. How accurate has it been? What are its assumptions? Who created it? How long has the model been in existence? So many questions, yet so few answers. And that's exactly right. We have question after question after question after question. And yet all we're told is wear a mask, stay home, don't do this, don't do that, because certain death, the plague of Almighty God, is coming for you. Now, I'm going to tell you something. I do believe this is a judgment of God. But I think it's a judgment of God through the virus of our leaders, not the virus of nature. The pandemic we have is a pandemic of godlessness. The virus we have is a virus of globalism and tyranny. And it is not a tyranny that drives tanks through the streets and shoots people down in the alleyways, though we may be closer to that than we could have ever imagined in the United States of America. No, the tyranny we have today is a tyranny of elite and academia. People that are so smart, smarter than you, they believe. They cannot allow you to live your life. They cannot allow you to go to the simple, basic methods of punishing your children. No, your children are sick. They have attention deficit disorder syndrome. Therefore, they must be medicated. No, you're not unhappy because of the choices of your life. You are depressed because of a assumed, unprovable chemical imbalance in your life. Therefore, we will medicate you. They are smarter than us, they believe, wiser than us, they believe. They are the embodiment of the ideology of the philosopher king of Plato, that there should be only an elite few who make the decisions for the ignorant masses. The Post goes on to say, if this is too much to ask, someone tell me why. Am I supposed to trust the president just because? And let me tell you something, and I hate to make all of our listeners mad, but there are a lot of people that are more concerned about supporting Donald Trump than they are about pursuit of the truth. Now, when Donald Trump has done right, I've been the first one to go, yeah, amen. Way to move the embassy to Jerusalem. I like it. But Donald Trump is no agent of God. Donald Trump is not the 13th apostle. And I'm going to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Some of the greatest travesties against our religious liberties have not come from Barack Obama. Folks, I'm going to tell you this. What Barack Obama did with the Obamacare is a drop in the bucket. It doesn't even touch the hem of the garment of what we're seeing today taking place under our knight in shining armor, Donald Trump, who is calling governors and telling them to shut their state down, who stands flanked by a vice president who is the head of the task force, God only knows why. He's flanked by Dr. Fauci, and we don't know where or who he is. Dr. Birx on the other side, we don't know what model she's using. And just like our knight in shining armor under George W., and we were launched into a 20-year war that accomplished nothing, did nothing, and cost us everything, just like under George W. Bush, we were that great bastion of conservatism. We had the overhaul of our Patriot Act, which really eviscerated the Bill of Rights. Oh, and by the way, the previous one, Daddy Bush, He was the one that introduced us to the whole concept of the New World Order. So now comes along Donald Trump, and we're all behind him, and I don't know what his motives are. I'm not trying to just berate the man, but the fact of the matter is the greatest power grab in the United States of history, the greatest shift of power, the closest this country, maybe outside of the Civil War, that has ever been to martial law on a national level, did not come under Bill Clinton, did not come under Barack Hussein Obama. It has come under Donald Trump. I like what the Post says. If this is too much to ask, someone tell me why. Am I supposed to trust President just because? I don't care if the president is a Republican or Democrat. Hear, hear. Male or female. Hear, hear. White or black. Agreed. Conservative or liberal. Bravo, bravo. If the message is one of mass death, you can and better show the numbers. Today, the president said this could be, quote, a hell of a bad 2 weeks. This is going to be very bad 2 or maybe even 3 weeks. Well, what is it? Is it 2 or is it 3 weeks, Mr. President? And then he comes out and goes, June's going to be very good. Oh, so what about May? Are you leaving May open? First, it was 15 days to slow the curve. Now it's 30 days. So is it 15 and another 15, or is it 15 and another 30, which is 45? Do you see how variation these numbers are? That's why in your gut you feel something's wrong. And I'm saying we don't have to apologize for it. I'm sorry if the snowflakes and the soccer moms and the millennials and the panty waster running around. Go ahead and wrap the bandana around your face. Do what you got to do. Listen, if you got a health condition, if you're elderly, if you're worried, do what you got to do. But the rest of us are walking around going, huh? My county is shut down. My county is shut down because less than 50 people have the coronavirus, and we don't even know how many of them are actually hospitalized. Today, as he said, the president said this is going to be a very bad 2 weeks. This is going to be 3 weeks like we've never seen before. Okay, so is it 2 or 3? Mr. President, the Post goes on to say, upon what do you base your assumptions? This is not too much to ask, and it is not too hard to produce. I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. The fact of the matter is, we are not seeing what we were told that we would see. Now, we were told that we were going to flatten, and see, contrary to most of America, there are a few people that actually listen and remember. It was Merlin who said it is the doom of man that he forgets. Well, it might be the salvation of man in this case to remember. We were told that we were going to flatten the curve simply because we didn't want to overstress the medical system. A medical system, by the way, that was not overstressed by H1N1. A medical system that was not overstressed by the flu, AIDS, tuberculosis, you name it. We managed to get through all of that. But this one flu now, this one COVID-19, we wanted to flatten the curve so that we would not be overstressed. Okay. We were told that because we needed to do that because there were going to be millions and millions of people infected, and there would not simply be enough room in hospital beds. Okay. But nobody seemed to see that. People started walking around, and you started seeing it on Facebook. Do you know anybody that has it? I don't. In fact, doctors privately were saying, hey, this is actually the second wave. Rush Limbaugh actually has a great little post about it. You can research it for yourself. He believes that this is actually the second wave, and the reason California is not this epicenter is because it was already dealing with this. I know people around my very circumference, both in this ministry and the Soul Trap, who fully believe in their heart that they had this already at the beginning of the year and prior. I know a doctor in our county, not affiliated with our ministry or this Soul Trap in any way, but I know a doctor in our county who said, you should have been worried about this last October, September, November. We had people coming through and we just thought it was an upper respiratory infection. We were giving them a Z-Pack and sending them home. This thing has been around for a while. But mind you, we were told we had to do this. So we start looking around. Do you know anybody? I don't know anybody. Do you know anybody? I don't know anybody. And it began to build some traction until in enters Cuomo, in enters New York, in enters Dr. Fauci, In Dr. Birx or Bricks or whatever she wants to call herself, in comes Donald Trump, in comes Pence. The mystery man of this whole thing, ladies and gentlemen, the mystery man of this whole thing is not Dr. Fauci. The real mystery man is Pence. Do your research on the white-haired savior of the United States of America. Do your research on his background a little bit. Oh, there's something to be found out there if you really believe writers like Avro Manhattan, Alberto, and others. Do your research. So, we were told that we had to. New York was being overrun. There weren't hospital beds. We need to send a ship there into the harbor because there were so many. Samaritan's Purse comes in and builds hospital beds in the park there. We got all these needs here going on. In Hawaii, overflow. Here, overflow. And everybody believed it. Terror, absolutely, shut the states down. Until all of a sudden, people with a phone begin to go, hey, let me go down to Queens and see how things are. Watch the following clips, and you tell me, where are the dead? You tell me, where are the sick? You tell me. I can drive by right now the Civic Center, and there's nobody in line to get tested. Watch the clips, and you tell me if we're being told the truth.
Approximately how many coronavirus patients have you seen? How many? You don't know? 2? 100? 3. You've seen 3.
So again, there are no lines of people. There is no mass chaos out here, contrary to what the mainstream media is telling you.
How do you know they had coronavirus? Do you guys test in the ambulance? You don't know. You assume.
Yeah, assume. It's not concrete. It's assumed based off of symptoms.
Absolutely, we are dealing with a conspiracy. Now, however you want to define that conspiracy, however you want to refine that conspiracy, who it entails and what their end game is, those will be decisions for another podcast. Those will be topics for more discussion. But the reality of the matter is that we're being lied to. We're being lied to. In just a second, I'm going to show you a clip from Cuomo on CNN. The reporter, the brother, he goes to great lengths to talk about how violent his night was with COVID-19. That he had chills so bad that he chipped a tooth. 103 plus temperature. He was so ate up with fever that he felt that his body was being beat, and that he had delusions, that he had dreams, that he had visions, that he was hallucinating from the fever and fear and terror of this. Yet miraculously, less than 2 or 3 or 4 hours into the morning, he was able to break the fever, to regain full strength, and with full fleshly color in his face, give an interview. You tell me, is this man telling the truth, or is he a good-for-nothing, filthy propagandist?
It was freaky what I lived through last night. And it may happen again tonight. Doctor says it may happen like 5, 8 times.
Chris Cuomo is opening up about the scary symptoms he's had since testing positive for the coronavirus.
I tested positive. Scary, yes, as you might imagine, but better me than you. Let's use this example of me having it as proof that you can get it too, God forbid. This virus came at me. I've never seen anything like it, okay?
On Wednesday, Chris revealed that after testing positive, his symptoms took a turn for the worse that night.
So yeah, I've had a fever. You've had a fever, but 102, 103, 103 plus that wouldn't quit. And it was like somebody was beating me like a piñata.
Chris said that it got so bad that he actually hallucinated and thought that he was talking to his dad, who died in 2015.
I was shivering so much, I chipped my tooth. So the sun comes up, I'm awake. I was up all night. It was I'm telling you, I was hallucinating. My dad was talking to me. I was seeing people from college, people I haven't seen in forever. It was freaky what I lived through last night. And it may happen again tonight. Doctor says it may happen like 5, 8 times. You know, I get it now. And if you match that with chest constriction and people can't breathe, I totally get why we're losing so many people and why our hospitals are so crowded.
Of course, Chris's diagnosis had a big impact not only on his older bro, who tweeted that Chris was his best friend, but also on his coworkers.
Sorry, I said I wasn't gonna do this, Jesus.
On Tuesday, CNN's Don Lemon broke down in tears talking about Chris's health.
Here's the really surprising issue. I think we all expected it from the federal government. FEMA, CDC, BATF, FBI, CIA, NSA, all the alphabet groups. What's stunning to me about this whole conspiracy of consequence is the level of power being taken at the local level. You see, we always had at least, shall we say, some buffer. Your city could be a buffer against the county to some degree. Your county certainly was a buffer against the state, but fundamentally there was a little tiny bit. Now, vastly eroded, vastly destroyed since 1865. But there was still a little vestige, a little tiny smidgen of safety provided by the state from the government, the federal government. What's interesting now is that the most tyrannical people is our states in most cases. Now they are doing it at the behest of the federal government. But where do you go? Who do you appeal to for relief? Everybody is operating under one assumption, and that is if we do not take the most draconian measures, we cannot protect you. And somehow or another, the city, the county, the state, and even the federal government has lost sight that the number one job of government is not to keep us from getting sick. It is to protect our Constitution, and more particularly the Bill of Rights, which assure us, protect us, the freedoms given to us by God. States are taking sweeping measures. I just pulled up here recently, April 3rd, this morning, New Jersey State Police now has power to commandeer medical equipment supplies for coronavirus fight. Excuse me? Yes. The head of New Jersey State Police now has the authority to commandeer much-needed medical supplies. How can that be, beloved? I'm serious. I'm asking a question. Isn't there something like 300 million people? Why do we need to commandeer supplies? I mean, there's a large swath of our country that is not being overrun or affected by COVID-19. Why not just reach out to them? But the state police now have the ability to commandeer equipment from private companies and institutions in the state that have not yet donated it to healthcare facilities. So, here's what you can do. You can donate it, or we can come and take it. My Lord in heaven, do you not understand where we are today? That's wrong. Governor Phil Murphy signed the executive order Thursday. Last weekend, Murphy signed an order calling on businesses across New Jersey to report to the state the supplies and equipment they have on hand as cases of the virus continue to jump. Now, you better watch what happens here. It's a test run. Murphy's new order now gives Colonel Patrick Callahan, Superintendent of the State Police and head of the state's Office of Emergency Management, to seize that equipment if necessary, including N95 masks, ventilators, and other personal protective equipment for health care. He says that the order that Murphy has gives him the power under the Disaster Control Act. It also says that the state would repay companies in the future for what is taken. Okay. But it's more than payment of money, ladies and gentlemen. You may be able to repay those companies back their money, but can you give them back their freedom from the tyranny of government? That is the question. I'm scanning down through just the headlines here of the Daily Wire, and it is incomprehensible what we are seeing. Bill de Blasio says he will monitor Christian Charity helping with coronavirus because they might not give homosexuals the right kind of care. My response would be, well, we'll give them better care than you give babies in the womb. Rush Limbaugh says shutdown is unsustainable. It's not lives versus money, it's lives versus lies. Listen to Rush Limbaugh. He had to stop himself the other day from sounding like a conspiracy theorist. Welcome to the party, pal. We've been here for a while. Yeah. Dr. Fauci, 10 million job losses, inconvenient, but we just have to do it. Isn't that funny? How that little Frodo dweeb gets to stand there, assured of his paycheck, assured of his income, assured of his security, assured of his food, assured that he's always going to have toilet paper. He's not going to have to deal with what you and I, the underlings, the plebes, have to deal with. No, he's able to pontificate from behind the presidential podium about what we have to put up with. Does he? Does he take a pay cut during this time? No. No, he's going to get what he gets. And we get what we get. Actress Jennifer Lawrence spearheading national vote from home effort. That'll be good. That'll be wonderful. That'll help everybody. Let's see here. Fauci again, asked about his security concerns following reports of a threat. Of course, they believe those threats are coming from the right wing. But he gets security. All right. Let's see here. Texas town. This is a huge one. Texas town orders citizens to wear nose and mouth coverings or face fine up to $1,000. What? They order you. And don't think for 1 second that that's not coming down the pipe. Don't think for 1 second that there is not coming down the pipe things that are beyond anything that you and I could have possibly imagined. You say, well, that's just that one crazy town in Texas. And who isn't crazy in Texas? Oh, okay. Well, here's an article. Headline from thehour.com. U.S. coronavirus deaths top 1,000 in a single day. That's sketchy. White House expected to recommend everyone wear masks. Published Thursday, April 2nd. The death toll and economic devastation from the novel coronavirus reached staggering new levels in the United States on Thursday as officials reported more than 1,000 deaths from the pandemic in a single day and revealed that more than 6.6 million Americans had sought unemployment benefits in a single day. Now let's digress for just a moment before we come back to this. One of the things that's being brought out by Candace Owens, Britt Hume, and others is that the death rate or the death toll of this COVID-19 is not accurate. If you have HIV and get COVID-19, chances are you're going to die. But what was it that was the underlying cause? If you have a very tough heart condition, or if you have very bad asthma, or if you're very, very elderly, if you have a heart attack and you had COVID-19, whether you're asymptomatic or not, they're telling you it was COVID-19. The numbers are intentionally being ginned up. Intentionally. That's not your friendly neighborhood soul trapper telling you that. That's people like Candace Owens, people that are starting to question like Ben Shapiro, people that are starting to question like Rush Limbaugh, people that are starting to question it like Glenn Beck, Britt Hume. These numbers are being ginned up. Why? Because the government must keep you in fear. Because there is a plan, and I'm going to tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. I'll come back to the article in just a minute. But don't think for 1 second that we're going back. The government is not going to expend this much time and energy and capital and resources into the reshaping of the new American Republic under the control of the oligarchy. All of it for just a couple months, then to hand it back to you. No, sir. So because of the 1,000 a day, or in that one day, White House is expected to urge at least some people across the country to begin wearing cloth masks or face coverings in public to dampen the spread of the virus. The potential reversal of the early mask recommendation. Local officials in one Texas border town already have threatened to fine those who don't cover their nose and their mouth if they go out into the public. Vice President Mike Pence, said guidance on the topic would be issued in coming days. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. We appreciate it, Mr. Vice President. Could you ever imagine that we would come to that point? Dr. Fauci, again from thehill.com, says the nation's leading infectious disease expert, and we don't know why that is, and how many times have we been hurt by experts, said he doesn't know why some states still do not have a stay-at-home order in place to stem the spread of coronavirus. Whether there should be a federally mandated directive for that or not, I guess that's more of a political question. But just scientifically, doesn't everybody have to be on the same page with this stuff? I don't understand why that's not happening, Fauci responded. If you look at what's going on in this country, I just don't understand why we're not doing that. We really should be. Maybe because we're destroying our country, Doc. Maybe that's why. Maybe because we have something called the freaking Constitution. That's why. Maybe we have something called the Bill of Rights. Maybe because the experts have been wrong on so many things. Maybe because you're not the one that has lost your job. You're not the one that has to file for unemployment. You're not the one that has to stand in line for an hour to get toilet paper. You're not the one having to deal with any of the consequences of your decisions. We do, not you. No, you get your 3 squares, you get your security, you get your face on TV, but you're not the one that has to deal with it. We do. So who are you to tell us that states should be shut down? Nothing that you have said has yet come to pass. You told us it wasn't going to be this bad. You told us 15 days to curb it. Now you're telling us 30 days. Maybe you don't know what you're talking about. Or more frighteningly, maybe you know exactly what you're talking about. And I tend to think the latter is true. Now, we can go on and on and on and on and on, but the fact of the matter is, ladies and gentlemen, the whole point of this show, the whole point of this rant, for lack of a better word, is to say this: you're not insane and you're not foolish, and there need not be any sort of tiptoeing anymore. Is coronavirus for real? Sure, I guess. But it depends on what you mean for real. Are people getting sick? Sure. Have people died? Unfortunately, yes. Is it a pandemic? Depends on what you mean. Is alcohol-related deaths a pandemic? Is H1N1 a pandemic? Is suicide a pandemic? Malaria? Do countries and should countries be shut down? Why doesn't Sweden have to do it in Japan? Why are we the only ones, along with with others out there? Why is New York being destroyed, but California, they're making it through? You're not crazy for asking the questions. And I'm going to tell you something. I believe what we need is a rising up from the very people that put Trump in office, because if he's not part of the problem, he certainly is not being part of the solution right now. And there needs to be a rising up on Twitter, on Instagram, on Facebook that says enough is enough. We are going to remember, come election time, we are going to remember the stripping of our rights, the threatening of our churches, the losses of our jobs over Dr. Fauci. Over people that are experts that do not give any justification for their models, do not give any verifications for their proclamations. They simply tell us we must bring the nation to a halt. We must suspend your worship. We must even suspend your First Amendment God-given right. Why? Because we are the experts. That's where we are. We were lulled to sleep. We expected to see tyranny goose-stepping down our streets, burning our Branch Davidians alive, shooting families on the side of Ruby Ridge, stripping a boy from his family in Miami and sending him back to Cuba. We expected to see it with tanks and guns, and little did we know, it was not the CIA or the FBI or the NSA or the BATF. No, it was not men in shadowy closets. It was experts. It's the tyranny of those who know more than we do or profess to, who know best how to run our lives or profess to, who are willing, quote unquote, to make the tough decisions while never living with any of the consequences that you and I are asked to live with. No, it is not the goose stepper. It is not the tank. It is the man with a white coat, the man with a degree, the man and the woman who says, we know more than you, for we are the philosopher kings. Welcome to the new Republic of the United States of America. Only don't feel bad and don't believe the propaganda. You're not crazy to look around and go, this is 100% bull. Well, you get the rest.
Toilet paper? The entire town has been quarantined by the federal government, nobody allowed in or out, which means nobody can come to our aid. It appears this town and this reporter are done for. Coming up next, choosing the right hair conditioner. What you don't know about hair care products could be costing you a bundle.
It's all right, Dad.
How's your mother?
She's hanging in there. You're gonna be all right.
There's only a 98% chance that I will live.
No, Dad, no!
Soon there will be only 98% of us left.